undertake that research. And when I say undertake, it's undertaken through a network. So you have APHCRI funded here at the ANU, but its role is to itself do research, but also to fund others to do research. And that's what we're now calling the APHCRI network. And I'll talk more about the APHCRI network further on in the agenda. So our key role is to undertake the research, whether it's not just here at ANU, but undertake it through the network. It's also to go through a process of knowledge exchange around research with policy makers. Generally, from our perspective, the key policy maker is our funder, the Department of Health and Ageing, but it extends to other governments and also to other participants in the policy process, such as non-government organisations and so on. So it's not just a relationship between the APHCRI network and the Department of Health and Ageing in Canberra. It is a much broader process of knowledge exchange. So we want to do research, we want to have knowledge exchange, and we also want to build capacity, because that's an important component. This PICRET strategy has done an enormous amount to build capacity over the decade or so of its life, and that is a key mandate of APHCRI, is to continue to develop that capacity. And as we talk about the Centres of Research Excellence, more of that will come through. So the ultimate, I suppose, point of our research is the so what factor. And what does this mean? What impact will the research have in terms of the health system, the primary healthcare part of that system, and on policies, or what policies might be needed to deal with particular issues. So it's very much so what, an outcome focus. It's not research just for the sake of discovery, and I'm not putting that down. In fact, I'm a strong supporter of blue sky and discovery research, but for this purpose, it's to deal with the health system and its needs. We do have an emphasis in APHCRI on international collaboration. We ourselves have developed links with a number of overseas organisations, particularly with the Robert Graham Centre, a Washington-based group, Washington DC that is, and we're exploring other more formal links in other countries. And we have every year, I think, of APHCRI's existence, we've brought at least one or two international experts to Australia, and they've shared their knowledge and their expertise broadly with the Australian research community and with policy people. So that's the context for the CRE scheme, and the CRE scheme is intended, first of all, to build on the capacity that has been built through PICRET and APHCRI in its first phase, to allow more sort of bigger research to occur, and research groups to be formed that have a longer period in which to undertake their research. Typically, APHCRI has funded research for a year or 18 months or so, but these Centres of Research Excellence will have funding for 4 years, and we'll develop that critical mass, we hope, of expertise which will both strengthen the research itself but also be a great driver in building capacity. So we've already run one round of CREs. We have funded 3 Centres of Research Excellence from a process we went through late last year. They commenced early this year, and they are the model on which we've refined somewhat, as it will come out in further presentations. But basically, it's the same model of 4-year funding, looking at a broader area of research, building networks, at least more than one group of researchers involved from more than one institution, and an emphasis on building capacity and participating in knowledge exchange. I think I'll pause there, and I'll hand back to Dagmar. We do have plenty of time for questions, so we'll sort of run through our presentations, and then we'll deal with the questions later on. I will emphasise that we are now in in a formal process, and we have a FAQ section on our website now where if there is a question, that's taken in writing and an answer given in writing. A bit like certain politicians, anything I say you can ignore, it's only what I write that you really need to take account of. So I'll be careful what I say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. Okay, we're going to be difficult here. It's always important to come back to the principles of the application process. So as both Vicky and Bob said, we need to make sure that the application process and the proposal that you prepare will enhance the evidence base that underpins the National Primary Healthcare Strategy, and also that builds research capacity. While the outcomes will be development of strong systems and proficient and sustainable service delivery for Australian primary healthcare consumers. So keep the end users in mind when you're preparing your proposal. While many proposals may be excellent, your task is to ensure that you not only meet the requirements, but that your application attracts the interest of the expert review committee for the right reasons. You don't want them to be scratching their heads saying, but I wish they'd have told us this. Put it in. The aim of our session this afternoon is to highlight some of the application requirements that might make your application more interesting to the expert review committee than other applications. Oh, thanks. You're going to do that, are you? Thanks, Vicky. Proposals will need to demonstrate an emphasis on research capacity building through supporting PhD students and postdoctoral fellowships. Just as a guide, the current Centres of Research Excellence will expend between 45% and 62% of their overall 4-year budget on PhD and postdoctoral positions. So there's quite a heavy emphasis there. Research higher degree positions might include Master of Philosophy or other master's degrees that will focus on training of research skills and will culminate in a formal qualification that can be seen to have enhanced research capacity building in primary health care. Thanks, Vicky. This is just an example of how you might present your postdoctoral and PhD student scenario. For example, it's totally fictitious. This particular CRE is proposing 3 streams of research, and under each of the streams they've named their team and members, they've listed the number of postdocs that they're going to have for each team, the number of PhD students and the names of their supervisors. And you don't have to be pictorial about this, you can use words, it really doesn't matter. But in this instance, there's a map indicating where these PhD students and the research streams might be located. And all that sort of information is very interesting to the Expert Review Committee. We're looking at collaboration, as both Vicky and Bob have said. The principle, again, is to expand research capacity building. Therefore, we're not setting any boundaries, but we're looking for cross-sectoral research. And as Vicky said, we're looking for innovative proposals. So you might think of designing a research program that integrates several sectors, for example, public housing and primary health care, or the education system and prevention and management of chronic disease. Another example might be models of integrated care that involve public health, private health providers and health insurance company incentives towards prevention of illness or self-managed care. Thanks. Another difference to round 1 applications is that these round 2 applications have a greater focus on governance. As Bob mentioned, these centres are being funded for 4 years, so we need to actually see the mechanism that's going to make your Centre of Research Excellence functional and achieve its goals across a 4-year period. A lot can go astray in 4 years. So governance really is your steering mechanism like the rudder of an aircraft or a ship. Effective governance achieves the necessary linkages, oversight and control to operate a program. In round one, we just asked you to list the chief investigators and what their role would be. And that doesn't actually show the mechanism that's going to govern the Centre of Research Excellence. In this round, we're asking you to actually show the mechanisms, to list the multiple dimensions, the people, the roles, the structures and the policies. Why would we have a high expectation for well-developed governance models? Because that's what's going to provide the direction. It's going to allow the Centres of Research Excellence to periodically review the interim results and identify and execute adjustments that will ensure the achievement of the planned outcomes. Another very important aspect of governance models is that it will allow you to identify a risk management plan. And as we're saying, in 4 years, a lot can go wrong. Some areas of your research you will know are going to be a little bit tricky, and you'll need to plan for those and have a fallback plan if something goes wrong so that you can mitigate some of those errors or problems. For example, the NH and MRC recent problem with their IT, I'm glad they had some plan in place to manage that because it could have been dreadful. So where to start? I'm a firm believer of working backwards to move forwards. So the first thing here, of course, is to clearly define the aims and outcomes of your Centre of Research Excellence and use that as the focus for working out who is then going to be in your research team, what skills do you need. You might need all clinicians, you might need a mixture of clinicians, of statisticians, of health informatics people. It doesn't matter. Whoever you need to achieve your